some storylines on the day that have been answered. Kurt Busch making adjustments to keep up with the track as the day went on, and going from being the most consistent driver in the second half of the season, knocking off just top 10 after top 10, but usually between 5th and 10th, to running up front and contending to win this race. And Jimmy Johnson saying he needed a top 3, in position to get that done right now. 11th place changing hands there. Jeff Burton, solid drive, looking for what would be incredibly just his second top 10 finish of the year if he could pass one more.
This is his best run of the day, and that's the time to have it in the last segment.
And disappointment for Jeff Gordon, sitting back there in 13th place in the final laps. Not the day the 4-time champ expected to have here at the Monster Mile.
Now watching Jimmy Johnson also starting to close back in on Kurt Busch a little bit. It's like what we've seen in the past is the 22 to kind of start to struggle a little bit as he gets more laps on his tires.
Boy, this championship is really going to close up today if these last laps run out like they stand right now. Casey Kane, Kyle Busch for 4th and 5th. Not been the kind of day at Dover Kyle Busch was hoping to have for his championship. I mean, okay, he's running in 5th, but I think they expected to get up there, lead laps, and contend for the win.
I certainly expected him to, and I think, Dale, you did too.
Yeah, he was my pick to actually win this race, but hasn't materialized, Vince.
No, it has not, and they were confident coming in, but Dave Rogers said before the race he really felt like Kyle had given him everything this week to respond from last week's finish, 11th at New Hampshire, 22nd in Chicago. They thought this would be a good track, and Dave said if we can get a top 5 here, we feel like we're going to be in pretty good shape. Right now, Kyle fending off Kenseth for that 5th spot.
And Kenseth trying to dig back from the 4-tire call on that last pit stop that cost them some track position. Remember, Matt up there with Jimmy Johnson as 1 and 2 for a good chunk in this race, in the center section of the day.
The one thing that would be beneficial for Matt Kenseth is a caution, because he's now moved into the top 5. He does have a little better tires than everybody else, so that'd be a break for him if we saw a late caution.
Yeah, and something that could be beneficial to Carl Edwards as he tries to run the front 2 down would be for Jimmy Johnson to get up there and battle Kurt Busch a little bit. That would certainly slow them down a little and allow him to get to their bumper possibly.
Leaders have caught the tail end of the field. A little lap traffic, not a ton though. Got a ways to go before they catch up with any really heavy traffic.
Most of the lap traffic will yield to the leaders because I don't see a lot of lap cars that are racing each other.
For positions.
Yeah, for positions. That means they would just give them the groove that they want.
Kurt Busch started on the front row and led a good bit in the opening segment of the race. Led most of the first 50 laps of the race. Then Carl Edwards went out in front. Carl was the dominator from lap 51 for a good bit of the race, on through about lap 175. Then Jimmy Johnson went out in front, and he's been the guy in command until this late turn of events, with Kurt Busch getting out in front.
Well, Kurt Busch done a great job when he got out front here. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, one thing with that 22 car, he got a little damage on pit road that knocked that right rear quarter panel out a little bit. I'm not sure that didn't help him. Make it a little tougher for Jimmy to run him down.
Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus, so much talk after they came into this race 10th in the championship. Could they climb out of that hole? Could they make it 6 in a row? Where did they stand between them? And frankly, the practice session that they had on Friday, body language, tone of voice, that kind of thing, did little to dispel people from carrying on with that story. But they certainly had that car fixed up and sporting for today's race.
Bob Osborne, I think he's had the best car for Carl. But just, you know, that one penalty, that one little miscue of speeding on pit road, putting back that lap and then not being able to get back up in contention until late, might end up costing him a chance to win this one.
Carl Edwards busted for speeding.
Get more, bud. Get more right there.
Exiting pit road on a green flag stop. at lap 246. Knocked him back to 25th at the time. Now he's running third, trying to close. Look at that, Johnson hanging it out, Edwards hanging it out. We're gonna have Atlanta flashbacks here. Are these guys sliding all over the place in the final laps?
Jimmy's really struggling with this rubber buildup right now. You can see Johnson get in that rubber buildup. His car really wiggling right there.
Looks like Carl just power slid through the corner there that last lap. They're giving it all they've got. It probably takes a little discipline when you've got these guys in sight like that to not overdrive the car.
Yeah, it is that, and Jimmy's really struggling with his car in the center of the corner where he was keeping it below that rubber buildup. He can't keep it that and carry any speed. See Carl Edwards closing in for second.
Clint Boyer, A.J. Allmendinger racing for 7th place, 33 and 43. Nice drive today for both. Allmendinger sent for a big slide after contact with Denny Hamlin way back on the 5th lap of the race. It sent him back to 43rd in the field at the time.
Yeah, Boyer hasn't been spectacular, but through the second half of the race, he's been more solid for him.
And some others side-by-side on the lead lap. David Ruderman around Brian Vickers. Vickers looks like he's kind of hanging on through these last laps a little bit. At the moment, the race appears to be for 2nd place. Kurt Busch, 0.8 of a second on Jimmy Johnson and Carl Edwards. If the 22 slips, they'll be right there on him. Yeah, he's got to slip.
Yeah, the thing that I've seen is Kurt Busch getting a lot of help from the lap traffic that he's encountering, and they're just one at a time where they're not running side by side or anything.
The only people I've seen slipping are Edwards and Johnson. They're just pushing their car so hard. And Kurt Busch is able to just keep his car steady and keep that lead. Lead still just 0.8 of a second last lap. Man, that's got to be tough, Dale. You can just see him. You can almost reach out and touch him.
Yeah, they're
Touch
right there,
leader.
and you're trying to figure where can I get just a little bit more out of my race car. I'm not sure that's possible for any of these three right now to get any more.
Now, understanding that if you try to get that little more, just a little too much, you might end up throwing away a good finish in the last laps.
Well, they're all three solidly back in the chase here now. I think that's one big thing, but they do want to win. You know, that's the goal right now. Yeah, they're thinking about the chase in the back of their mind, but right now they want the trophy.
A lot's been made of the radio conversations between Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus during last week's New Hampshire race. Steve Addington, crew chief for Kurt Busch on the left. There are some tense radio conversations as well as his driver has struggled to manage expectations and the reality of them working through the handling in the late laps of these races. Yet they came here to Dover this week. Kurt said, I've been a champ before, we can do this. Now they're 2 laps away from going to victory lane.
They're proving they can do it. They adjusted this car when it wasn't so good in the middle of the race, turned it around, and now looks like he's going to get this victory. 1 to go.
1 more mile, Busch.
The only driver in the top 10 in the championship standings all season long. That man, Kurt Busch. Just the 1 win on the road course at Sonoma. But steady, solid. After finishing 22nd in New Hampshire a week ago to lose ground in the championship, they're going to gain it all back with a win on the Monster Mile today. Kurt Busch wins at Dover.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about. Yeah!
Look at the rest of the lead lap finishers, but it is Kurt Busch getting the jump on Jimmy Johnson on a late restart, hanging on through another restart and pulling away to score the victory, his 2nd of this season. And the win going to pull Kurt Busch up to 4th in the championship standings, only 9 points off the leader, Kevin Harvick. Kurt Busch lays the nose of that Dodge up against the inside retaining wall and lights him up for the fans.
Lighten up the good years.
Dover, Delaware, the Monster Mile, where race number 3 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup is over. We said at the start of the day, Dale said this race would cause a big shakeup in the championship standings. Not only did it shake up the positions, but it closed up the championship as well.
Yeah, we've got 9 drivers solidly in the chase here. Battle for this championship within 19 points. Gonna be fun.
Congratulations once again to Kurt Busch. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. We'll see you in 1 week when we are in Kansas.
Number 3 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup is underway.
There you go, bud. Good job.
Carl Edwards hunting for the race lead.
Every time there's a lead change, there's a new points leader.
You were doing a hell of a job, Jimmy. Thank you. Let's do this. I can't make it do something it doesn't want to do here. Do later, the 22.
Here comes Carl Edwards charging up through there.
Kurt Busch wins at Dover.